Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a twisted wire tool. This particular tool is good for smoothing out your shapes and refining your forms. You're going to need a brass tube, which you can get at a hardware store or a craft hobby store. You're going to need some piano wire or another thin wire that's somewhat stiff. You can get that at a music store or a hardware store. You're also going to need Propoxy, which you can find in the plumbing section of a hardware store. And a drill, a needle nose pliers, and a cutting tool. You will also need some alcohol and some popsicle sticks for sculpting. First, you're going to trim down the brass tube to about 5 inches. I use just the wire cutting tool for this. You have to put a little bit of elbow grease in. You might need to bend and snap it to get it to work. Then use the needle nose pliers to compress the tube into an open shape so that you can slip wire into it. It doesn't need to be very open. Next, you're going to be taking the piano wire. You're going to fold it in half and take the two ends and then insert them into the drill. Tighten it down. Make sure that they're really in there. It's a little bit difficult to make sure that they're secure. You may have to do this several times. Next, using the needle nose pliers, grab the bent end of the wire and hold it into place. Do not use your fingers for this. Turn the drill on and it'll twist the wire into a very tight twist. When you let go, it is going to spring out and probably twist up a little bit at the end. Loosen it up, and there is your twisted wire. You can see that there's a knot at the end where it folded on itself. Now I cut about a 4-inch length. You just want enough to work with. I'm going to be making the rounded end of the tool, so I fold it in half, but not folding it so tightly as to create a point. Next, using the wire, put it in the end of the tube, which you have slightly crimped. You're going to be creating the actual tool now. So this is some matter of personal preference. I like my tools to be somewhat stiff, so I'm going to secure it down a little bit. I use the needle nose pliers to push the wire into the tube. And then you're going to use the pliers. And again, this is a little bit nicer to have a broader pliers in this case. You're going to want to use it to tighten down and crimp the end of the tube. This particular brass tube is a little bit stiffer than I'm used to working with, so again, it requires a little bit of elbow grease. Then you're just going to repeat this again on the other side. In this particular case, I like to have a double-ended tool that's got two slightly different tools on each side. So while one end was rounded, this particular end is going to be a flat tool. So I put it in the pliers and then push down on the sides to create that flat edge. Again, just shove it into the tube. If you want, you can pre-crimp it a little bit to make it grip better. And then crimp it down again with the needle nose pliers. There, you can see it is in place and somewhat stiff. Now we're going to put that down and we're going to mix up our Propoxy. You're going to want to use gloves for this. This stuff is not safe to be using directly against your skin. This is epoxy that's used to cement pipes into place, I believe. I'm not a plumber. But you just clip off a little bit. It's basically a 2-part epoxy. And then you mush it together and knead it just like you would bread or any type of other 2-part material. Then I usually just pinch off a little bit. This is one of those situations where less is more. and then I wrap it around the tool. You want it to smush into itself, but then also to grip the edge of the tool. All we're doing right now is reinforcing the tool so that when we put pressure on it, when we're sculpting, it's not going to snap off against the brass tubing. Next, I use a little bit of, this is 99% alcohol, but you can use 91%. I spritz it on, and I just use that to smooth down the tool so it's nice and it doesn't have any hard or sharp edges. You don't want anything that's like hanging off that's going to catch on your sculpture. And then you just repeat it again on the other end. I use a little popsicle stick to make sure everything's kind of neat. I'm a little bit particular about how neat I like my tools to look. If you want, you can also wait until the Propoxy cures and then use a Dremel to smooth it down. Next, you just let it cure. I usually like to let it cure for about half an hour, maybe longer, just to make sure that it's nice and secure. And there is your tool. And this should last you many sculptures. And if not, you can always make another one. Thank you for watching.